What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you are new here, please make sure you go ahead, slap that like button because you know it helps support the channel. Also, make sure you guys subscribe and hit that notification bell because, as you know, I do not have that post schedule. I only post when I feel cute, both on my main variety channel and on my coaching channel. I only post when I feel cute. So if you want to be here when I post a video, gotta hit that bell. I have an amazing guest here today. We are going to talk all things music, content creation, artistry, and he knows this world so much. He has been in this world for years. We are going to get into it all. I am so excited to announce my guest, singer, songwriter, like literally a legend, someone who advocates so much for HIV awareness as well as for the LGBT community. He just surpasses everything you want in a musician and an artist. I'm so excited to introduce my good friend, Tony. How are you?
I'm amazing, and thank you for your generosity of heart and spirit. That's very kind of you to say. Thank you.
Of course. I was so funny. Earlier, I was going through, I went to Facebook to see when we became Facebook friends. And it's funny because everyone I end up having here for these conversations, it ends up being such a full circle moment because we were Facebook friends starting in 2015. And I didn't start music until 2020 is when I launched drag music and my YouTube channel. So that's all those years of me watching you just kill it and me just like knowing and realizing like, wow, like we can be an artist in the LGBT. Like that was, you know how back in the day, like that was not, it's a thing now, but it wasn't so much like the further you go back. Yeah. You were one of the first I saw. So I thank you for sparking that fire within me. And I'm so happy to have you here to talk about your journey of how you got the discography that you have and just the legend that you become. Like
Gary, goosebumps. Thank you for that. Thank you for always being so sweet now and always. You're always so sweet and so kind. I love you and I appreciate you. And thank you for everything you do and for being an example of possibility for folks that are watching you and that are seeing you, you know, be all that, you know, all that you know, all your facets and and everything that you do and all your content and for being, you know, a creator. Yeah. I don't use that term lightly, you know. We get to create, you know, it's a blessing. It's a gift. So thank you for sharing that with everybody.
Of course. No, thank you for being here with me. I tell people all the time, like so much of me doing what I do just comes from the fact that we're able to do it. Like 20 years ago, like you could not walk into, like, you know, I always say like, it's crazy how that generation, like when I was younger, if you wanted to be a singer or an artist, it was like a known fact that you had to march around New York City, CD, and it was a struggle. You had to be
get the door slammed in your face.
Right. Not even that, but you had to be mainstream and perfect and this and that to even get in that door. So when it started to shift, when things started to change, it like, of course I'm gonna do this. Like, what was that like for you? Like when you were going back to the very beginning, when you first started, like that was the iconic moment for me, but it was even further back for you. So what was it like realizing like, oh, I can do this now and like times are changing? Like, what was that like?
Well, I will say, I don't know that the industry, that the music business and the establishment has changed so much. I don't think it's changed that much. It's still a bottom line business run by corporations, unfortunately. We haven't come full circle to where the industry, it's happening. We're watching it happen. We're watching the industry slowly come back into the hands of artists, sorry, plural, but it's definitely still a corporate game, unfortunately. And so to that, you know, when I started out 2007, 2000, well, before that, I was signed to an indie label in Philly. 3 years was the contract, was not a good fit. I had been writing since I was about 12, 13. They didn't want me to record any original material. They, you know, they wanted to publish it for themselves. And I get it, but it just wasn't a good fit. So I asked to be let out of the contract. I had to agree not to record in the industry for 3 years because it was a 3-year contract. And over that time I sat and I was like, this is so stupid. Like I'll never put it in somebody's hands again. My journey, my future, what have you. I'll never put somebody else in charge of that again. So I started my own local label in Philly, Lil T Entertainment LLC, 2007, 2008, released my first single, I think it was 2008. But I did it because I got every door slammed. You know, nobody wanted to back a gay artist. And nobody, you know, back then you were considered a hard sell. You had very little to offer to a very small audience, and everybody wanted the bottom line investment, return on their investment. Because the truth is, even with the big artists, you know, look at the artists that got dropped, like Mariah Carey got dropped from her contract. And you hear about these big deals. She got $80 million. Her contract was 80 mil. Yeah, that's all advance money. And you better make every red cent back for the label or you get dropped. Like she did, you know, because she wasn't, and that doesn't speak to her artistry because she is an amazing artist. She, you know, and so it's really unfortunate to have a lot of people still kind of, you know, there's a very Cinderella image projected of the music industry. And it's just not the case. It's read the fine print, own as much of yourself in this industry as you possibly can. And now in the interim, I don't know that I could, I mean, I could never be a subordinate. It would really, if a record company were to come to me today, it would really have to be like the perfect marriage where they didn't want to run my life, because that's the kind of contracts that I've had that offered over the past 15 years.
Yeah, wow. So you got into the independent industry not just because that's what everyone's doing, like as it is now. Like as it is now, it's like everyone can see that's what you do when you want to release a song. You more so had to get into it because you were coming out of the more mainstream society with it all.
I guess that's where I was trying to go, and I saw very quickly, I'm never the kind of person to like, I need to hang around really long to know if I belong somewhere or not. I'm like, no, I should get my ass out of here. You know, and so I knew that wasn't going to fly well for me. Again, as a gay artist, it was so crazy because at the time, the label, there was a lot, it was gay ran, and they were still trying to like make me play it straight and whatever. And the truth, and what they were having me release, nobody cared. It wasn't until I, you know, really walked in my own authenticity and was my authentic self, because I think audiences can smell bullshit. So it wasn't until I was really my most authentic self that people were like, oh, that's cool. Like that's somebody who's like their own creation or their own product or their own person or however you want to say.
Right. I love it. So would you consider like being independent artist like good to go, or do you feel like you're always waiting for that next moment to possibly be signed and get back into mainstream, or how do you feel about it now in today's?
Never. I was actually an older friend, for a grade school friend, sent me a message the other day and was like, why don't you sign me? He's a singer. His father was a singer and amazing guitar player. And I was like, I don't sign artists because there's no reason in 2022 for an artist to be enslaved to a record label and get paid less. I'm more than happy to help and guide anybody, but I'm not signing anybody and I'm not taking anybody's money because that's not my ethics. That's not how I run shop.
And it's really not necessary. And it's funny because we talk a lot about that here on the channel. It really ties into that whole being a full content creator. And it's weird because in today's day and age, you almost have no choice. Like when you make music and you become an artist, you almost immediately get signed up for all those things. But it's not a bad thing because that allows you multiple levels of income, and all of those leveled out, if done correctly, you will make what a mainstream artist, like per se, would make if done correctly. You know what I mean? So there's definitely options out there for independent musicians who want to do the best they can and make you know, millions or what. Like that's possible. It really is. Oh, you cut out a little bit.
I did, and I sent a voicemail. Let me put a do not disturberization on. How rude. It's okay. How silly of me.
We love it. We look, if it was later, I would be here having my little wine. When I have like 8 p.m. interviews, I'm like getting tipsy. Like
I know that's right.
And they're like, "Are you good?" I'm like, "This is just what we do over here." Like,
better than good.
I like refrained today. I was like, "We're gonna keep it quiet. I still have time to go to the gym and shit later." So I'm like trying to.
Right. I did it earlier. Thank God it's done.
Yeah. But yeah, in today's world, so much easier to be independent musician and get your coin and all of that. And it's funny because like people who really, really love music don't like, they hate that part. They hate that they have to be like that influencer or whatnot.
Right.
And when it comes to that, I try to let them know there's so many different ways that you can monetize your music content. Like, you know, there's so many ways to build around it where it doesn't have to feel like work. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. And it shouldn't. And if it does, I think it's worth the kind of clicking pause to sit and recalibrate and think about what it is you're doing, how you're going about it. And I mean, the other thing is, you know, one of my favorite quotes is from Desmond Tutu, rest his soul. And he said, God created us different, not that we should be alienated from one another, but that we should know our need of one another. And I think that's true, like, especially in any creative industry, because somebody always has a skill that maybe you either don't have or don't want to do. So there's, you know, I think don't be afraid to reach out to other people and other artists and other creators and see how you can collab, how you can work together and get everything done without you having to feel dread, because that's not what this is. That's not what doing you love. I think there's maybe dreadful moments, but it shouldn't be sustained. You know?
And that's exactly why I'm happy to have you here, because even just us talking is helpful for one another. But I obviously hope to have people watch this and just like be inspired from the conversation, because it's like, I remember when I first started and I had a couple of questions, I was I was messaging you, and it's funny because I messaged a couple of people and you were the only one. So I didn't realize how like cutthroat people can be about it. Like, you haven't even dropped the song yet and people don't even want to tell you how to do it. So I just wanted to be on the opposite spectrum of that and like really just get into like why we do what we do so that people know it's possible, you know?
Right. I have some older mainstream gals that I'm friends with who I reached out to in the beginning, and it was fucking crickets. And not only was it crickets, but there was like a very hoarder-esque type of energy. Like they were afraid to give their, like they didn't want to give it away. And I've experienced that several times. And I said to my ex at the time, I was like, if I become that elder, take me up on a mountain and shoot me. Like, don't let me become that. So even like, you know, I'm older than some of the people that are, you know, creating and coming into the industry and all that, but I don't want to be a hoarder. Like, there's room for literally everybody. There's room for everybody to make it. And that hoarder sort of capitalist colonized way of thinking, it's unnecessary.
It's bad. And it was the same thing for the YouTube world, like specifically because I didn't have like enough subscribers. Like if I reached out to anyone who had more than me, which obviously I did because I wanted answers from someone who had been doing it for a little bit, and they would look at me like cross-eyed. And then like I remember like months would pass and I would like pass them in like subscriber mark, and then they would be messaging me like weren't you? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. Like that's me. Like,
exactly. Big dummy. And bye.
But no, you were one of the first to like answer back, and I had like, and it's the silliest questions when you first start, and it's so funny because when you first start music, I don't know if you had this issue per se, but I was almost looking for any excuse to not release it. Like I was,
of course.
Yeah, I was holding on to her, like I was like, it's not ready, like, and I was looking for any excuse, and that was a lot of what I was talking to you about, is like what I needed to just like wrap things up. And I remember asking you about like visuals, like if you had any contact for music videos, because I love your music videos on your YouTube channel. And I remember that being so inspiring to me, that like not only did you have dope ass discography, but you work so hard about getting your visuals out, and like you can just see, like you're like that person that posts where like when you post, I feel like I'm not doing enough. And you know how much I do already.
You do a hell of a lot. Yeah.
No, but you're right there up with like you go, and it's so inspirational. And I love your videos. And I remember watching them and going through them and being like, oh, he just got it done. Like he didn't need he just got it done. Like we're in literally in Philadelphia, like out in the alleyway, like whatever it takes. Like
my whole videography is like a toast to Philly. Like if there's a place that I think is cool. And so we just finished, you know, for this new single for I Want It, we just shot down in, it's called FDR Park, or the Lakes if you're from South Philly, down by us in South Philly. And it had just snowed, and the theme was like winter Olympics, winter ice sports, winter. And so I was like, fuck it, you know, like, let's do it. And it came beautiful. So I think, we get in our own way a lot of times. Start where you are, use what you have. You know, my first music video back in the day, I remember thinking, like, I was putting that pressure on, like, this will always be my first video. And I look, and like, don't do that. Like, don't put the pressure in. Start where you are, use what you have. And I love being an example of kind of growing as an artist, and that it's okay to grow. That you don't have to start out as Beyonce, because Beyonce didn't start out as Beyonce. You know what I mean? So start where you are, use what you have.
And that's like, without that advice, I would be nothing, because that's all it is. It's just literally, because I was always waiting, especially as like a drag queen musician. I was like, oh, I'll wait till I have the best costume, the best hair, the best this.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point I was like, girl, you have things. Open your, like, you have things. Get crafty, get it done. And when it was done, like, I will just never forget that feeling of being launched out into the world and just being like, okay, like, we didn't do it like we wanted to, but we did it. Like,
We did it, and you got it. And sometimes, there's like that saying, everything that needs to be said is always said, like regardless of what our anxiety is. So you did everything that you needed to do. It may not, I don't know that any vision ever comes out 100% the way it is in your head. And I think that's that. I'm a nerd. I like that about music, just because you have an idea, you get in there and you flesh it out. And sometimes it just doesn't work, and so then you do what's best for the record. But start where you are, easy.
So speaking of vision, I want to know more about not only I Want It, your new single that is out and is amazing, but like your writing process for I Want It, and like if you see the video before or after, and also just want to let you know also how much I love, like, not only I Want It, I don't know if I Want It is like sexual, but I love the sexual energy in your music, and I just have to like commend you for it, because I'm forever, what's the word, like, sticking up for myself and like trying to make people understand why I write the way I write. And I choose to have super sexually charged songs, and so are some of yours. So I'm so interested to like know like where your head is at when you're writing and where all that comes from.
Well, I consider myself a sexually empowered person. I love to sexually empower other people, because I think sexual empowerment leads to sexual health. And that's why everybody calls me when their kids come out. I'm like the very gay father. People always call me when their kids come out. And I see a lot of parents so afraid of having, and people call it the conversation. And it shouldn't be the conversation. It's a growing conversation. It's a living conversation. You should always be having discussions about sex and sexuality with your kids, because your kids should feel comfortable and safe coming to you with questions that they're going to have as they get older. And I think children who are raised sexually empowered make good and healthy sexual decisions. Kids who are brought up to have agency over their body. I think it makes them less susceptible to predators, to bad decisions. I was not raised sexually empowered, and I talk about all the time. And I remember the night that I contracted HIV. It was with my first boyfriend, and we were, about to have sex, and I could have stopped and said, no, I want you to use a condom. But my exact thought was, I want him to like me. So instead of thinking about myself, I was worried about somebody else. So I say all that to say, I do like being sexually empowering. I think it's good for my own sexual health. And all I can hope is that it could be good medicine for other people's sexual health. But it's so funny, because when I first came out, as an artist and things were so sexually charged, so not anything I do, like I blink and people are like, that means something, like blink once for top and twice for bottom. I'm like, I had an eyelash. So anything I do, people think is like, but I just bop with it and ride with it, and it kind of tickles me. But with I Want It in particular, first of all, I love figure skating. It's one of my favorite winter sports. And you just watch like the level of athleticism and creativity and artistry. And these people have been training the better portion of their life. And so it hurt. I kind of like was hurt for them, like in a parent kind of way, when I learned that the US wasn't going to send an official delegation to the Olympics. And I understand why, like genocide is never okay. And that's what they're protesting in China, the genocide and the crimes against humanity. But at the same time, it sucks that the athletes are getting spited by it. And it makes me feel like they're going there like these orphans, like we have no official representation, like who's going to represent us and like have our back, and like just going to send them. So that kind of pissed me off. And the more I watched them and really appreciated everybody, I was like, this sucks that this has the kind of, that they're being impacted by this political shit show. And I was watching Nathan Chen, and I was just watching him and just seeing how bad he wants it. Like he comes to slay every time. He means business, and he does. He's amazing. So the song started coming to me, and I ran up in my room and I grabbed my guitar and I started writing it. And I really didn't want to release anything before this new album comes out in the summer, but I'm just blessed that I still have something to say. Like I always worry about that. I'm like, what if I never have anything to say? So I'm just blessed that I have something to say and that I'm moved by something. So Nathan Chen, Jimmy Ma, those guys were the guys that inspired this song. So it's for them. And it's just my way of, I hope that it could be good medicine, and that I can send every, Team USA and everybody off to the Olympics with some love, wrapped in some love,
Yeah. I love the song. And it's funny because you have so many, like, in your discography, there's so many different genres of music. And like, I'm a pop freak and like a dance freak and all that. So I told you so many times how much I love Maneater and Burn. I like, they're just like, the repeated Spotify playlist, they're just like up there. Like, I love those songs. And it's funny because I Want It is very that, like, you went back to like dance pop. And I was like, it's like perfect time to do an interview because like I love everything you put out, but I love that you're going back to like this dance, like pop feel. Like,
thank you. Well, it is kind of an entree like into the new album, the Indestructible album. In the same way with Positive, that I wanted to lift up the experience of people living with HIV. I wanted to do the same thing with like the growing up gay experience. So I really wanted to make it, short of like the maybe one or two ballads that's on the song, I wanted to make a strong dance record, EDM dance record. So I think this is kind of like a nice lead into where we're going to do.
And the remix is popping, and all of the remixes are popping, and the I Want It remix will be out later this week. You were saying
any minute. I'm waiting. I'm literally waiting for iTunes.
That's so dope.
I've like sent them one behind the other.
Oh my gosh, they're both so good. Yeah, you guys don't know, but he sent them to me prior to the interview, so I've been listening to them on my own. But they'll be on iTunes and Spotify by the time you guys watch this. So check out his tracks that are new, as well as all of his tracks. You go back to like 2007 or 2011, I think I saw today.
I think 2008, 2009. I get my lines, of course, like when I first started my record label and like filling out all that paperwork and like dating it, and then when I actually released the first single. So it's like between 2007 and 2009.
And was Work It Out your first? Was that your
my first?
Okay, that's hot. I love that song.
Well, thanks. The remixes and the producer who I ended up working, he was my first producer, Damon, Mr. Dizzy Fingers Bennett, and he was incredible. And I've been really blessed to have the opportunity to learn from incredible musicians and producers. And he was great. And I had gotten, I did what I thought I was supposed to do as an artist. I booked that $1 million studio in Philly, and I got all the hot shots at the time, and it was trash. I had to dump it. I had to eat it. I just should have took whatever. It was like 4,000. I should have just flushed the 4,000 down the toilet. And I learned that the talent at the board is more important than the bells and whistles of the board, like recording in this multi-million-dollar studio. So the remix, he salvaged what we could of the single version, and then he did the remixes, which are my favorite parts of that like maxi single. So yeah, that was my first like school of hard knocks experience.
Wow. And you record from home now, because that was another thing you inspired me with. I think I was throwing out excuses like crazy back then. I think one of the things I said was like, oh, like I can't get in a studio, yada, yada, yada. And you literally like showed me a picture of your setup. You were like, this is where I record. I was like, like, can we do that? Like,
I think the more you know about sound and the science of sound, because you can record anywhere. And even when you record in a multi-million-dollar studio, the producer's going to do a vocal sweep. So here's the nerdy part, you sweep the vocal on the EQ board and you raise each frequency to see what needs to be cut. My voice in particular, and I find a lot of male voices, there's a lot of this, there's a lot of that bottom rattle, and you have to cut it. You have to cut those frequencies to flatten this vocal, and because it's all done, it's electronically. It's not like it does record different from the analog days now that we do everything digitally. But I say that to say you have to do that no matter what. So I think the more you know about sound, and you're like, oh, because I recorded in my bedroom, I should check this frequency, you pick up more of the room, the higher end frequency. So I think it's really, I've recorded on the road in hotel rooms, and yeah, just, and sometimes I don't do such a hot job. Sometimes I get it really, I think I got it really right. But yeah, you learn as you go. There's no other way. There's no other way.
I was gonna ask, are you gonna do a video for I Want It? You said you are, and did you think of it while you were doing the lyrics?
Not so much. But we did finish the video, and so it's just a lot of, Winter Olympics stuff. So snow and winter and ice sports. Yeah, I kind of thought maybe a little bit about it while I was writing it, but really afterward, it was perfect timing because it snowed, and I was like, let's do this, let's go, let's do it. Thought about what I was going to wear more than anything.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm a clothes horse, so
no, but you always bring it. I love the fashion. So at this point, are you like, where are you at with the producing? Are you 100% hands-on, or are you sending off for mastering, or do you do it all?
I do send off for mastering because I hate it. I fucking hate, man. Like, nothing will make you lose your mind. My sister always joke, because a lot of times, if it's a really hard song, or if I'm having a really hard time, I'm like, come and record with me, and she'll be my second set of ears, and we'll comb through it note by note, make sure everything's on pitch. And so she goes, my brain is splitting. But that's how I feel when I'm trying to master something. Like, I'm losing my mind. So I get a good mix, good solid mix, and then I send it for mastering because I fucking hate mastering.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But you're still in there mixing, like you're mixing the voice, you're still tweaking it to the best that you can, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have a shitty mix, you're gonna have a shitty master. So I get really the best. And you still lose your mind with the mix, like, for going like half decibel by half decibel for a hi-hat. You're like, no, it's not right. I don't even remember how many mixes. I think I went through like 30 mixes of I Want It.
Oh, wow. Oh my God.
Yeah. Rendering the mix. And because you want to hear what the compression is going to say. Your mix doesn't always even sound like your mix because of and then everything has its own, iTunes has its own compression. Spotify has its own compression. So the most maddening part is trying to mix and master a song that sounds good on every fucking thing.
Yeah.
That you don't, it's going to have a different compression than what you've done to it. So that's probably the biggest challenge of what we do now in the digital age, is trying to make a song that's going to sound good on everything, on great speakers, on shitty earphones. My sister hosts karaoke at a club in Philly, and she played it. And I was like, did you have to EQ anything? She was like, nothing. I was like,
oh my gosh. Yeah, that's the biggest challenge for me. And I guess I opened myself up to it because when I made my first single, I co-produced it with someone. We went back and forth, and it was a great like shared experience. And then because I went on to immediately, it's like, I guess it's similar to when people get a tattoo and they're like, I have to get another one. I was like, I dropped the first single and I was like, what's next? Like, what are we doing next? And but I did not have coin to hire someone again. So that's when I got into producing myself, which I still do. Yeah, I'm so proud of it. But that mixing and mastering part, it is not it for me. So I always like to ask people like how far they are in that journey, or if it's something that they like, is it something that you will try to learn in the future? Because I feel like I'm always trying to like learn it. Because if I can get to the point where I do it all, then I won't ever have to pay to get it done,
Right. Yeah. I think I like the way I like the dependability of the mastering that I get right now. So I don't think I'll ever that's so many more hours. Like, I'm not even like the mixing part, even like that's the part that I read the most. But it's my baby, so it's hard for me to I don't mind that as much as the mastering. The mastering is just not my ministry, and I like the dependability of the mastering service. I feel like it's a really dependable, it's a great, they render a great EQ every time. So.
I know, I get real skeptical though. I don't know what service you use, but I sit there and I'm like listening to what I sent versus what they sent me back. And I'm like, is it really better? Like, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, sometimes you do have to go back and play with some shit on the board. So I ain't getting no paid, how you call? endorsement to mention a name, so I'm not going to. I'll tell you in the privates.
Yeah,
But
I would like to know what you use, because you use like a website that you can send
I
off.
do. I pay the membership, and I just like it so dependable. And even when you feel like it needs more high, more mid, whatever, you can go in and tweak it. It renders a new master. So I personally, as someone who hates mastering, I dig it, and I like the dependability of it, and I like that I don't have to think about it. They know the standards, the iTunes standards, and also it's always rendered for that. And I don't have to think about it.
Sounds like a deal to me. Yeah, I like that too, but I guess I'm getting like antsy and just trying to learn how to do it myself, because I feel like I'm close, because I played with it. I come from a world where YouTube University is a real thing, and you can do anything if you learn on YouTube. And I sure enough has sat there and tried to watch mastering videos, and I'm getting better, but not at that point where I'm comfortable like uploading it. So I'm just honestly putting in that time right now. I hope that the next single I can fully make the master myself, because I'm trying to save that coin. Like
I know that's right. The service is super affordable. I will say that. And I think too, when you're, like, this is do-it-yourself pop music at its finest, right? So I think knowing when you've spent your 10 spoons of spinach for the day, and like, that's just not, I don't say that to discourage you. I think it's incredible that and I admire your perseverance and tenacity in it. I detest it with a nuclear passion. So I'm just gonna let them do it.
You have the same qualities. What are you talking about? I'm just trying to keep up with you. That I remember seeing you fire out these singles. I'm like, who's paying for this music? Like, who's paying for, like, you have to, that in the beginning when I first did what I did, I was like, I would never be able to do this as often as I want to, because I paid a cute coin to have my first song done. And it was one of my favorite producers and worth every penny. But I remember being like, oh, this is the best high I've ever had, and I don't know how I'm ever gonna replicate that. And then that's when I was like, girl, like, we have to learn how to make beats. Like, if you want to do this as much as you say you want to do it, you have to learn to make beats. Like, so.
I think making the initial investment in yourself is paramount. And when you do when it's time, business plans and having a resume and like having a product closes business deals. And so I think, there's that saying, don't tell me what you're going to do, tell me what you've done, and then maybe I'll cut the check. So you have to invest in yourself, or you have to make that initial investment. And so whether it is like learning an instrument, I didn't start playing guitar until I was in my 20s. I didn't get a guitar until it was a gift from somebody else. But just the same, like learning an instrument, learning music, really making that initial investment in yourself so that you can feel that you're putting out a good product, and that it's as good as you can get it. And then people take notice. And the other thing, then you get your ass on your back and you realize what you've done, the man hours that you put in, the energy, and then you stop being afraid to ask what you're worth when it comes time to give your quote for a live performance and things like that. So it's important to make the initial investment. I don't speak for myself, but I feel that it is.
It's funny that you say that, because I feel like I've gotten that way with like views and purchases. I'm very much like, like you said earlier, like these songs are our babies. So it's gotten to the point where once I decide to launch one out, I really don't need anyone to listen to it. Like, I have been known to jam to my own music, and I will go to my Spotify page and see who were the plays for the day, and it's all It's all me. And I'm like, that's fine. Like, I love my music. And I think that's such, like, for any beginning creators or YouTubers, musicians, whatever you're doing, whether it's videos, music, or both, like those first couple songs, those first couple of videos, it's so important to just love them, because it gets to that point where like, you don't know how good it's going to do, and you shouldn't expect it to do great, especially if you're new. And it's important that you're in love with it, because that's all you got. You know what I mean? It's your relationship with that art piece.
Exactly. Yeah, you should only really be concerned about pleasing yourself. I make music that I would like to listen to. When I'm performing, I put a show together that I would like to see. And it's fine if people hate it. That's part of the job. It's like working at UPS and being mad you gotta lift 50 pounds. Like, I gotta lift 50 pounds. Yeah, bitch, it's part of the job. So I feel like that's, you know, somebody's always going to hate it, and that's okay, because I did your job, or my job as an artist is to create. After that, I'm done. On to the next thing. It's not my job to provide a supplement on how people should digest it, or how they should love it, or why they should love it. I'm done. I did my job. I created art. On to the next thing. You know. So yeah, I think pleasing yourself. You should please yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. It took me a while. I remember, because I had my song done and I was showing it to close friends and family, and everyone was so taken aback by the vulgarness and all of that. And I just didn't hear that. Like, even with what I write to this day, and I'm still on the same theme, like explosive sexuality, I'm still doing the same thing. And I stand by it, because it's so much more about feeling confident, feeling like you're in your own skin. And I'm so glad to have like the multiple platforms I have to sit here and preach this, because if I have said this on other videos and people are literally like, oh my gosh, like you explained it so well. Like, now I understand you make what you make. Like, but before I say anything, people really just think I'm like, oh, raging sex addict, just only thinking about sex, only writing about sex. No, like, I come from a place where I was not always comfortable in my own skin, and I just recently got there. And thank you, before I was there, music and that explosive, crazy sexual energy that you get from like Britney, Christina, Madonna, all those girls, that's how I coped with not acting out on my sexual wants and needs. I spent all of my 20s not liking my body, not liking who I was. And because of that, I did not experiment in sex. So to be there now, hell yeah, it's coming out in my music.
I know that's right.
You know what I mean? And I'm proud of it, right?
Inside out beautiful, like all of you.
So when people, you know, when people clock my music for it being what it is, I love to, like, I have to sit there and give this spiel every time that this is coming from a place of growth. This has nothing to do with trying to be the best or trying to be this and that, or, you know, it's none of that. This is about feeling good. And you'd be surprised how many people want to feel that. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. And that's usually the people that hate it. Right. You know, they say people hate you because you bring up something about them that they don't like or want to change in themselves, or they want to be you.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think it's cool being a gay artist or LGBTQ plus artist, and being sexual and speaking to that sexual empowerment, because we're finally at a place where we can, you know, we're teaching people about gay culture, and gay culture is different, just like sex and sexuality is different in every culture around the world. Well, we have our own in the LGBTQ plus community. We have our own definition, or what have you, you know, using those terms and words, really from a heteronormative society, but just the same, we have our own way of expressing our sex and sexual empowerment and the way we deal with it in our culture, in LGBTQ2S plus culture. That's ours. So people should get over it.
you do it so perfectly, because I always tell people, like, the older you get, as you know, whatever the word is these days, creator, influencer, whatever you're doing, artist,
whatever.
there's, you know, when you're younger and, you know, you just want to get that little cute pop single out, like, you know, it's cute. But the older you get, and same thing with any of the art, like, no matter what people are doing, like, the older you get, it ends up being, you want to like have this impact, like, you want to teach people things, you want it to like mean something more. And for you and your artistry and your music, I just think you've taken that to the next level, and it just deserves so much appreciativeness, because you advocate and teach so much to our community through the lines of your songs, through your content, and then you're even throwing in really great backside shots, like really like taking every level of just being bold, being beautiful, being experimental, and then you take a great deal of explaining why you are the way you are, the same way I have to. That's why I see myself in you, and like I love that. Like, so I appreciate the way you do that, and I always try to do that. I always, like, even now, like, I'm so big on coaching and giving back to all the artistry community, and you just done that tenfold, and so much with the LGBT community. Like, I hope to inspire them and get more with them soon, because I always forget that, like, that's our group, you know what I mean? Like, we would not be here if it wasn't for like their support. It's just, it's
right.
like,
Yeah. Well, you're doing an amazing job. And it's wonderful at the same, it's wonderful to watch you, and thank you for inspiring me, and for all, again, for all that you do, and for the sacrifices that it takes to do it, you know, the ones we may know about and the ones we don't.
Yeah, it's I'm sure you know it's a journey, no matter who you are or what you're doing.
And that's all the honest, like, don't be concerned with the finish line. Run a good race. You know what I mean? I never really concern myself with and when it comes up, I'm aware. I've worked at being aware of it, and I just kind of dismiss it as another anxiety.
Yeah.
You know, run a good race and have fun and enjoy it. Like, you know, it's funny that, like, to discuss all the ins and outs and, you know, the business side of it, but it's supposed to be fucking fun. Like, you know,
yeah, and that's what people need to hear.
Fun.
They need to hear us be in the middle of it all. You know what I mean? Like, we're not anywhere close at the end of where we might want to be, and that's okay. And to talk about it now and how we got to where we are and how we're going to continue to get where we're going, that's inspirational, and it's like necessary. Like, so I appreciate you being here. What is next for you? Like, I feel like there's an album tomorrow or something. Like, what is the plan? If you can say it, if it's secretive, that's fine too. But what is the tea for what's coming up next with you?
Not secretive at all. Indestructible comes out in the summer, early to midsummer. Okay. Again, it's called Indestructible, lifting up sort of the growing. There's actually a song called Growing Up Gay on the record, which I'm
dope. You get right to it. I love it.
Just lifting up that experience and what it's like, and really what there's been a thread running through my, which is like that Phoenix rising from the ashes. I love that story and that spirit, and that has been real for me. So lifting that up to, like, again, if I could give good medicine and if I could do it through music, why not? So, you know, the kind of this too shall pass, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's all there. The album closes with a cover of I Will Survive, which I'm really excited to cover. And I tried to, you know, do my own thing. And I always felt like it's like, it has this opera and operetta quality to it. So I tried to pull that out in the arrangement and highlight those things. And it's almost kind of like a Broadway arrangement to it. But just again, trying to put my spin on things and have fun while I'm doing it. So Indestructible comes out in the summer, and the music video for I Want It will be out before the end of the week.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Thank you so much.
Dude, are you kidding me? Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My last question would have to be for, like I said, all those younger creators, anyone who's watching, and most importantly, the LGBT community, because, you know, to be quote unquote normal and have a dream and accomplish it and chase it, it's sad that that's so much more acceptable, and so many people in our community don't get the chance to do what we did because they're afraid to be seen for who they are. So what would you say to the up and coming, you know, 16 or 17-year-old boy or girl who's in the community who wants to be an artist but is afraid to go into that world because people are going to find out of who they are and how their heart feels? What would you say to them?
Might be one of the most important questions I've ever been asked.
Because you almost want that guide. Like, if you were that kid, you almost wish someone came up to you just with a little bit of advice. Because when you have that dream and you want to be something and you already know in your heart like what you are and who you are, it's really hard to fight for it. That's why I asked, like, what would you say to that person? That person may be listening or maybe watching, you know what I mean? They might need that advice.
Know that you're not alone. I think it's amazing how we have all this technology and all this stuff to bring us together. And I think the feelings of isolation, especially with the post-pandemic and all that, is more prominent than ever. Know that you're not alone. Know that there's a community that you can reach out to, and then reach out, and talk and have conversations and find a good support. You know, like me and you were able to talk and rap and ask, but like, that's positive. That's good support. Reach out for that good support, and then heal whatever it is. Take time as best you can at 16 or 17, whatever tools you may have, to really do a self-inventory and figure out maybe why you're afraid. do a good self-assessment and then say fuck it and let the chips fall where they may and come out and do what you love. Because being happy and walking in your truth is more important than any fear you could ever hold on to. And I think when you finally do it, when you come forward and you come out, it's never as bad as you think it'll be, or as scary as it was sort of waiting in the wings. See it as it is, not worse than it is. And I think at 16, 17, especially if you grow up bullied, if you don't feel safe, whatever, it can feel like this is going to be eternity. There's never going to be any end to this. And now when I look back being 37, I'm like, I was actually pretty like bad and didn't care. But I wish I was so much worse, because I really was afraid that this was going to be like the forever, that I was going to be in the shit forever. But I wish I was worse, you know, and just was really didn't care. So I think get a support system, know what it is that you have to heal, and then figure out what's going to make you happy, and then do that. Do what makes you happy. Do what feels good. Pour into your spirit. Because I think the other thing is, when you are an artist and you have a dream, you want to make people happy, you want to make people feel good, but you can't give away what you don't have. And nobody tells us this in school. If I wanted to give you 6 oranges to appreciate you for this interview, I would have to be in possession of 6 oranges. Right. You can't give away what you don't have. So fill your spirit, fill your heart, fill your mind with good things for yourself first, so that you have it to give away to other people and give it away in your music and your artistry. It doesn't matter in a year, it doesn't matter. Yeah, just, and again, start where you are, use what you have.
Love it. I would add to that by literally just saying, it's cheesy advice from just on the topic of speaking to that younger LGBT person. It's cheesy advice because it's from RuPaul's Drag Race. But the quote, "Know who you are and deliver at all times," I heard it later in life, and I wish I could tell a younger me that, because to me, I hear owning all the things that, like, you know, if I have that high-pitched gay voice, if I'm too flamboyant, all the things that I was afraid of people finding out that I was. Like, I have this thing where people told me for years I was supposed to be on YouTube since I was 17, 18. And it was a lot of the fear and me being overly feminine and being overly gay of why I was afraid to do that. And then fast forward to today, some of the things that I was afraid of, that my qualities, are the things that I'm so proud of, and that, you know, I love to show. You know, I'm so proud of all the layers of me and everything that I am. So knowing who you are and knowing the qualities that you have to put out into the world and how they can inspire others is so important. And that just kind of like leeches off to what you said of just looking into your inner self of why you're doing what you're doing, you know, why you're starting a channel, why you're writing a song. Like, make sure you're doing it for you and just focus, you know?
Absolutely.
So where can everyone find you, follow you, stalk you, slide into your DMs? Let them
know. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, just at Tony Enos, at TONYENOS. You can find me on all the music carrying on, iTunes, Spotify, Tidal, whatever you like. Tony Enos. And then my website is TonyEnosMusic.com. There's merchandise on there as well, t-shirts, calendars, if you so feel inclined. But yeah, please hit me up and say hi. I love meeting new people, and I love life and people. People, you know, loving on people is part of that. So yeah.
Well, I'm gonna leave in the description box down below, guys. I will have all of Tony's links. I'll have his website, his Spotify page, so that you have access to his amazing library of bops. Like, you are going to be so happy I led you to this. And I'm also going to link your YouTube channel will be in the description box also, so you'll find all of his
I forgot about videos. YouTube at Tony Enos.
Yes, yeah, no, I'm gonna have it down there because people are gonna hop right from here to there. So it's a easy transfer. So check out his music videos, go show him some love in the comments over there. Also, I'll have the link to my main variety channel, Nigel Battle, down below. Make sure you go check out my drag music videos. My drag music is all of my variety channel. Subscribe over there to subscribe to Tony and subscribe to this coaching channel so that you guys can learn more about how to grow your business, how to thrive on YouTube, be a musician, mix it all together, get your coin. We talk about all of that here. Full transparency, full tea. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Tony, for joining us. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.